I got it. It's okay. Okay, you're fine. We just had a cat situation. Oh.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fairfax County Public Schools Virtual Military Night. My name is Meredith Kim, and I work as program support for the College Success programs in Fairfax County Public Schools. Virtual Military Night was designed to help students and their families learn more about the various military pathways available to school graduates. And before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that the session is being recorded, and if you have technical difficulties and you need to log off, the recording will be available later on to view. Additionally, you have the opportunity to ask questions to our panelists, and you can use the Q&A buttons at the bottom of the screen. Throughout this discussion, please feel free to submit your questions, and we'll kind of answer them as we go along. At this time, I would like to let the panelists introduce themselves.
All right, I'll go first. Hi, my name is Lieutenant Susie Danessa. I am an officer in the Coast Guard. Little bit of how I became an officer. I am a graduate of one of the 5 federal service academies. The one I went to is called the Merchant Marine Academy, or sometimes shortened to Kings Point. My major was marine engineering. I later went and also got my master's there as well in marine engineering. I then went into the Coast Guard via a commissioning program called Direct Commission Officer Program. I am currently the Northeast Admissions Officer for the Coast Guard Academy. Guess some parts of my career, I'm actually, after I did my contract on active duty, I went into the Coast Guard Reserves, and from there, I also worked as a civilian engineer in the maritime industry. And now I am currently on active duty, like I said, as an admission officer for the Coast Guard Academy. So, and then I'll turn over to my husband, who's also in the Coast Guard.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name's Craig Bozen. I'm a Chief Petty Officer in the Coast Guard. I'm enlisted. I have just hit 17 years. I am, I go by what we call a bosun mate. So I'm a chief bosun mate in the Coast Guard. And over my years in the Coast Guard, I have had various different jobs, all the way until from federal law enforcement, search and rescue, counter drug interdiction, narcotics enforcement, ports, waterways, and security, aids navigation, support for anything on the water that you see as a navigational aid, like a light or buoy. We maintain those. And I've had a little taste of all the search and rescue missions you could probably imagine. I specialize in driving all our small boat types, and along with our cutters, which we classify as any boat 65 feet or bigger. I'm currently stationed in Boston, Mass right now on one of the newest Coast Guard fast response cutters, the Maurice Jester. We're 154 feet long, commanded by a lieutenant, the same rank as my wife. And we have a crew of 24, and we patrol off the Northeast coast doing search and rescue and law enforcement. And we also make our way occasionally down off of Key West into the tropical waters doing alien migrant interdiction and things of that nature. But that's just a little small snippet of the enlisted side of what you can kind of dabble into and what I've just experienced. So feel free to ask me any question under the sun.
Okay, awesome. I think I could probably go next, huh? Well, hello, everyone. My name is Rochelle Means. I'm with the United States Air Force and the Virginia Air National Guard. I'm sorry you can't see my face right now. I'm currently driving, so I don't think you guys want to watch me drive. So hopefully I can get my video call on when I get parked. But anyways, I have over 16 years of experience in the United States Air Force. I was active duty for about 15 and a half years. Came in when I was 19 years old, fresh out of high school. And then I transferred over to the Virginia Air National Guard. I currently am stationed in Richmond at JFHQ, which is the Joint Force headquarters for the Virginia National Guard. My job in the Air Force is security forces, so I'm military police. I was born and raised in Virginia, but when I joined the Air Force, I went over into Florida. Was stationed in Florida for 6 years, got deployed twice out of there to UAE and Qatar. And then I got picked up to be an instructor for security forces. So I went over to Lackland Air Force Base, which is in San Antonio, Texas. And I was an instructor there for a little bit. And then from there, I went to Africa, got to do humanitarian missions out in Africa. And then I volunteered to be a recruiter. And that's where I'm at now. So I have a lot of experience. I don't recruit for the United States Air Force or Space Force anymore, but I do have a lot of good information if you guys do have questions about that. I more specifically recruit for the Virginia Air National Guard. So yeah, I look forward to talking to everybody a little bit more though.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Sarah Cruz. I am the recruiting officer and surface warfare instructor at the University of Virginia, where I'm at the NRGC unit. I commissioned through the ROGC program through Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And I'm from the DC area, so I'm very familiar with Northern Virginia. I spent my first tour overseas in Japan, where I served on board USS McCampbell, a Flight 2 Alpha destroyer, and I was the strike warfare officer. We deployed numerous times throughout the Indo-Pacific for the 2 years I was out there. And then I spent my second tour on another Flight 2 Alpha destroyer, USS Spruance, where I served as the fire control officer. And I again deployed back to the Indo-Pacific. So I have a lot of operational experience overseas if you're interested in what life is like on a ship over there. And as a recruiting officer, I deal a lot with the scholarship process, somewhat of the admissions with the university itself, and can answer any questions with that process.
Awesome. I know you just joined, Ms. Dixon, but we're just doing introductions. If you wanted to just give a short introduction.
All right, yes, ma'am. So I am Technical Sergeant Heather Dixon, and I am active duty Air Force. I'm recruiting out of the Fairfax office. My original career field before becoming a recruiter was fuels. So my job was logistics based. We would deal with the accounting of fuel, distribution, cryogenics, and stuff like that. So over the course of my career, I've been stationed over in Germany, Delaware, and then I've been on several temporary duties, going to like Spain, Panama, Canada, stuff like that. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you all for those introductions. And as part of the general panel, I just have like a couple general questions for the panelists about military, and you can feel to chime in whenever you'd like. The first question would be, what made you look into the military options in the first place?
What?
Go.
What got me to join the military? Well, I went to college and then I worked out in the field, the civilian world, doing shipping and receiving, working with steel and steel industry. My family has been selling steel. Pretty much that's what we did. And really wasn't kind of going anywhere. So I think I didn't join at the age of 23. That's when I decided I wanted to start looking at a new career path, and kind of went to the different branches. I've had family members in the Army, Air Force, other branches also, but I kind of visited everybody else. And I came across the Coast Guard, and when I went to talk to the Coast Guard, they offered some things that I thought was a little bit more appealing for somebody at a little bit older age, choosing to enlist in the military. And it gave the option to have a lot of different jobs closer to the areas where you might be from, and keep you closer to the continental U.S. So that's what got me there, and pretty much, yeah.
And for me, I started by I didn't really have family who was in the military besides from grandparents and whatnot. And so I started looking in via the service academy route. The service academy that I went to, the Merchant Marine Academy, what really appealed to me there was because you are able to commission into any branch of service. We have opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities through that service academy. And that's how that led me to the Coast Guard. When I was at the Merchant Marine Academy, we get exposed to a lot of the different branches, and the mission set of the Coast Guard is what really attracted me to wanting to pursue the Coast Guard. Also with the Merchant Marine Academy being a very maritime oriented school, being a marine engineer, I was able to kind of pursue both of those things while also getting to serve as well. So.
So I'm a fourth generation naval officer, and so I was kind of influenced from a young age to join the military. However, I wasn't sure which community within the Navy specifically I wanted to join. And one of the great aspects of the ROTC program is that after your freshman year, you get to go on this really cool summer training called Corpsman, where you get to spend a week with a different community. So you get to go on submarines. It's the only time I've ever been able to go on a submarine. You get to spend a week with aviation. So I got to fly in jets, helicopters, hang out with all the different pilots. I spent a week on surface ships. And then we also spent a week with the Marine Corps because we have to know what our brothers and sisters on land do, which was super cool. But I pretty much decided after that I knew I always wanted to be on surface ships because I think there's nothing better than deploying out to sea, seeing the sunrises and the sunsets, and we do a lot of really cool missions. So through the ROTC program, I kind of solidified what career path that I wanted to go into, even though I knew I was pretty much always going to join the Navy.
Let's see. What, I guess, kind of tailoring off that question, what are the first few weeks like in the either boot camp or summer experience? You know, are you able to contact your friends and family while you're there, or are you just totally kind of off the grid?
I would say at least I can definitely speak with the active duty Air Force as well, because we go to the same basic training for the Air National Guard and Air Force, is that they do get to contact their family within 48 or 72 hours. That first week they get there, they do have to call home and let them know that they arrived early, or they arrived there safely and everything like that. And they do get to do letters and everything like that throughout basic training, so you know exactly what's going on with them. Show them love, give them encouragement, give them motivating words to get them through the weeks, because basic training for the Air Force is 7.5 weeks. So that can be a long time to be away from family for a little bit there. So yeah, they're not totally gone from the world or anything like that. You can still contact them and everything. So I don't know if the Air Force recruiter wants to speak on that as well.
Yes, ma'am. The only thing I would really add to that would be that they have a service available. It's called Sandbox, and essentially your family member registers for that and they can send you letters faster. So instead of sending it through regular snail mail, they can basically email the letter, they can attach pictures to it, and then they print it off at basic training, so it gets to them much faster.
Didn't know that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking on the Coast Guard boot camp, I mean, I'm sorry, it's been a while, 17 years to be exact, I think today, since I've been to Cape May, New Jersey, where our local boot camp is. So it's 8 weeks long. I think the video that they use to show us and kind of hype us up in boot camp, you could probably still find it for any of you guys on YouTube. It's called Field the Coast Guard. Honestly, it's a pretty good one, and it kept me motivated. Communication with your family is there. I don't know what it is now, but when I was in boot camp, I received mail pretty routinely on the weekends, Sundays, I think it was, and then we were allowed to write back. But I mean, there was no, you were not deprived of any type of communication, and you weren't any way kind of influenced that you were going to be totally cut off and isolated through this whole event. They did. Now, I will tell you, when I went through, it was very intense. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but they said we had the hardest one, second to the Marine Corps, only because they were longer. But I mean, each their own. I don't know. I found it as a 23-year-old man pretty intimidating, not physically demanding, not hard, but just impressionably, it was intimidating. You usually have senior enlisted company commanders. I'm probably pretty sure it's probably the same in every other service, like the Navy, the Marine Corps, and Air Force. And these guys and these men and women have a pretty good amount of experience and have gone to sea, especially with the Coast Guard, and done the mission. So they really put it into you, the importance of learning your craft, learning the basics, learning respect, learning your orders, learning how to, honor, respect, and devotion, duty, our core values, and how important it is because if you can't get it there, you're not going to be able to perform out in the fleet. And it's very important to know this stuff and rely on it and become solid in it because other people can count on you. And it's not just your shipmates, it's also the people that you're going out to help and you serve. So yes, it's a very great molding time. It's very intense. It's not going to be easy. It's 8 weeks. You are going to have great communication with your family. It's probably a little bit better than when I was there, but you're going to learn a lot, and they're going to break you down, and they're going to build you back up, and they're going to turn you into something that you didn't think you probably could be. And it's pretty good stuff. So
That's what I feel like I've heard from personal friends. They break you down and they build you back up. For those, I guess, that don't come from military backgrounds, like how did you tell your family and friends that you were joining the military? And are there any conversations that stand out from that time? Not sure if that applies to anyone now.
I mean, I guess I could kind of speak on that because I'm not the type of person that would go into the military. So when I told my parents about it, they were surprised, but not surprised at the same time because, I joined because I needed direction. I needed discipline. I was a very troubled teen. So they really didn't know what I was going to be doing after high school. So when I told them I was thinking about the military, they were super supportive about it. And my dad is prior Navy. Actually, he retired from the Navy after 20 years, and I was about to go to the Navy, and then he told me maybe look into the Air Force as well. And then he was super supportive, took me to all my appointments and everything like that. So I think they were all about it because I think they knew that it would make me grow up. I was very, like I said, troubled. It made me grow up, made me very disciplined, made me independent, and yeah, made me a better person overall. So yeah, my family's super supportive for that.
Awesome. And then how did the military kind of help you all pursue your educational goals that you had prior to joining?
So for me, I didn't complete college before I joined the Coast Guard, but all the branches in the military service have what they call tuition assistance, and I have been somebody that's been utilizing that my entire career. When it's more advantageous to the others taking classes. So, I'm sitting one class away from finishing my bachelor's, but there is that at any branch you select to choose, there's tons of educational benefits and options for you to take advantage of. And like I said, tuition assistance. They're also rolling out different types of things. Like I've utilized what we call this program CG Cool, Coast Guard Cool, where it also allows you where you can get funding not free of you don't have to reimburse, you don't have to pay back for any type of certification. So during my career, I've utilized the tuition assistance towards my bachelor's degree, and I've also acquired credentialing. Our specialty is also small boat driving and handling watercraft. I've obtained my commercial license in operating certain tonnages of vessels. So when I get out of the Coast Guard, I can roll into the commercial world, operating like what you would see like tugboats and harbors, working on freighters, things of that nature, like licensed positions that will also help increase your salary and your profit once you roll into those fields. So yeah, for me, tuition assistance with taking my college classes, and then also taking advantage of credentialing programs through on the job training that I do as myself, and then seeking them out what also is available to members.
And then from the Federal Service Academy perspective, it is tuition free. So essentially attending a Federal Service Academy. So when I say Federal Service Academy, I'm talking about West Point, Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, the Coast Guard Academy, and the Merchant Marine Academy. So instead of paying with time, instead of paying, we pay with our time afterwards with a service commitment. So.
And so I did ROTC because I went to school out of state, and I knew just being a family of three and the oldest, I would need to have some type of scholarship funding to support going out of state. So that initially helped me pay for my undergrad. I graduated without having any debt because of the four-year national scholarship. I just want to stress, though, if you don't receive the four-year national scholarship, you can still join any Navy ROTC unit as a college programmer, and you'll work with staff members like myself to try and pick up a scholarship. So don't think that just because you don't get it initially that the door is completely closed, because it's not. So while I'm at UVA, I'm actually also pursuing my master's degree. I have aspirations to take command one day, and in order to take command, you have to have a master's degree. And so I've used some additional funding sources that the Navy officers, I think it might be universal for all the other services, but I'm not 100% sure. But the Navy offers something called Graduate Education Voucher, where every fiscal year they will provide you with $22,000 to go towards your tuition, as long as it meets certain criteria. I do owe time back for that, but it's being served concurrently with another commitment that I signed because I agreed to stay in the Navy for an additional 5 years. So I can do those two commitments concurrently.
So along those lines, as a high school student right now, what are the jobs that are currently in demand in your branch of military? Like how, can you give some examples of the MOSs that are like currently being recruited for that are in high demand? And how, are there anything that students can do right now to work prior to joining on those skills?
So for the Air Force, we're predominantly hiring for mechanical and electronic career fields. Also military police, that's our largest career field within the Air Force. There's also a really big push for special warfare. So things like pararescue, EOD, combat control, all of those things, combat related, they're really looking for individuals for. There are other career fields. We are looking for linguists. And then if you want to put yourself in a position, like I have a lot of people that walk through my doors, they want to go into IT. What I would highly recommend, if you want to increase your odds of getting a job in IT with the Air Force, I would look into getting Security Plus, Network Plus, getting those like level 1 certifications. So you have more qualifications to bring in with you. So you're considered like a exceptionally qualified for the Air Force.
For the Coast Guard, definitely engineering, really anything engineering based. The other thing we would be cyber and intel is also becoming a big focal point. Coast Guard Academy itself, its newest major is a cyber and intel major. We're also rolling out another engineering major as well. What I'll say is someone who pursued both of my bachelor's and graduate work being in engineering. I was someone where I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be an engineer. It wasn't necessarily the funnest thing in the beginning, but looking back, it's absolutely has been a great foundation. And looking back, I sometimes can't even believe if I told my younger self, "Oh, you're also going to get a master's in engineering." But it's something I would definitely say. Engineering, you're always going to be in demand. You're always going to have opportunities, and that's what I like about it as well. Is that I always have the feeling that I have an opportunity somewhere. So.
I'll take a second to address some open questions that we have in the Q&A. And one is directed for the National Guard. How can I join the National Guard, and what type of aid do they provide for college? Is it only in-state, public school, etc.?
Yeah, really good question. So the National Guard does pay for a in-state college tuition. So if you go to a college here in Virginia, which luckily in Virginia we got some really good colleges. Right now, the going rate for our state tuition is $20,000 a year with a $10,000 cap each semester, and then it resets every year. So those benefits only apply, and you can get the full benefits with a 6-year contract. So within the 6 years, that's $120,000 with tuition assistance and things like that, being if the state tuition stays the same. So that's how much they'll cover.
Okay, and then our next question is, I think this kind of applies to everyone. How in demand are critical language jobs, and how does it relate to recruiting or scholarships? Does being fluent in a critical language benefit their application for ROTC scholarships?
So the Navy used to have a language scholarship, but I don't believe they're offering that anymore. You can put it down, but that would be considered one of the tier 3 majors. The Navy's really primarily looking for engineering, math, and science majors. I haven't seen any correlation in being in having a critical language and being able to go into a specific career field after. But that's only after 2 years of being at the ROTC unit, so I can't, give you clear data on that. It certainly won't hurt you. It's always good to have a skill, but the Navy's primarily recruiting for or primarily wants tier 1, tier 2 majors, which is your engineering and then your math and science.
And then the last question I have right now is someone thinking about medical school, and is that something that the Air Force or Navy ROTC scholarships can assist in?
So the Navy just this year started a new medical school scholarship, which will help with your 4-year undergrad and then potentially going into your graduate school. It's brand new, so they're still rolling out the program. I haven't received all of the information for it, but you can apply for it. If you're a junior, going to be a rising senior, the new application should open up sometime this summer. That is an option, but it is incredibly competitive. The Navy RGC program is primarily looking to commission officers into the surface warfare community, the aviation community, the submarine community, and then special warfare. We call those unrestricted line officers. Restricted line officers would be those who want to be doctors, lawyers, and some of the information warfare fields. So there are avenues to go to medical school, but they are very, very limited, and you have to be like in the top 1% in order to be able to get it.
Wow. I have a student asking that they're interested in the Air Force and they're moving to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Do you have any contacts for recruiters in that area or how to contact them?
Right, absolutely. Funny enough, my next duty station is gonna be North Carolina, Seymour Johnson. So I'll be in the area, but I won't be a recruiter anymore. What you can do is go to the airforce.com website, scroll all the way down to the bottom, click find a recruiter, and then you can put in your zip code, and it will display the name of the recruiter and their contact information right there for you.
And then another Air Force related question is how can we become part of the Space Force?
Okay, so to become part of the Space Force, you have to qualify for the Air Force first. So same process, you're going to take your ASVAB, you're going to take your personality test, you'll go through medical screening. So once you're fully qualified for the Air Force and you enter into the delayed entry program, what you'll do is you'll put your application or your job list into the Space Force. So for Space Force, you have to pass all of those things. And then on top of that, you have to take like a personality test. They're going to screen you for the different positions for Space Force. You also have to qualify for a top secret clearance too. So that's generally how the process would go.
Our next question is for ROTC. Can you join ROTC later than your freshman year of college? And do you lose anything if you join later?
You can join specifically for the Navy. Air Force and Army are slightly different, but for the Navy, you can join all the way up until typically spring semester your sophomore year. You have to be on scholarship by the end of your sophomore year. If you do not have a scholarship by that time, you will not be able to continue with the program. That's because by law, there's specific summer training that you're required to attend. And if you don't attend that, then you can't commission. You can join as a sophomore. You don't really lose anything. You'll have to make up some of the courses. So you might have one semester where you're taking 6 classes instead of 5 classes, because we do have some additional academic requirements such as calc and physics, English, national security class, and a cultural awareness class on top of your additional naval science classes. But plenty of students do it. It is not anything that you wouldn't be able to make up. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
We have another ROTC question that came in. Can you speak to any benefits or perks to participating in a high school ROTC program when preparing to enlist or joining a service academy?
So participating in any JROTC, whether it's any service, certainly demonstrates a propensity to serve. So that is actually one of the questions on the scholarship application. Did you participate in our JROTC? Did you have any leadership positions? And that's just something that helps your application stand out. Because you've already, worn the uniform and probably received quite a bit of military bearing training, that kind of helps make the initial intro to ROTC a little easier. And when you do some of our summer training requirements, that can help alleviate some growing pains since you've already participated in some of that.
Let's see. Can you do ROTC if you're not a US citizen?
You have to be a US citizen.
Okay. And then what benefits do you receive from the Air Force?
So I want to add something to that last question. When you go through basic training, as long as you have your green card, they're building in naturalization into basic training. So by the time you graduate, which is 7.5 weeks later, you'll have your naturalization. So you'll become a US citizen. And then that way you'll be eligible to apply for commissioning programs. So that is a path that's open to people. Benefits for the Air Force, all branches of the military generally have the same benefits. So you have your housing taken care of, basic allowance for like food, your uniforms are going to be covered, stuff like that. So I would say that for the Air Force, we have our own community college. So while you go through basic training and technical training, you're getting college credits just by learning your job. I've gone through different trainings throughout my career. So when I put on staff sergeant, they gave me leadership classes, so that gave me college credits. When I became a recruiter, that gave me college credits towards an HR degree. So a lot of the things that I did throughout my career counted towards building my college credits.
I think that's all the questions we've answered for now. So I think we'll go back to the other questions of just, someone that comes from a non-military background, what should they think about when, deciding between branches, whether it's the jobs that they can get or the training that they need, or what are those things that they should be contemplating right now?
No.
I think when you're looking at all the different branches, specifically look at like if there's anything that jumps out to you and is very attractive to maybe what you do, right? So for the Coast Guard, I had an interest in I like being on the water. I liked operating boats. The Coast Guard, clearly through their advertisements, please forgive me, I'm not a recruiter. I've never done that as one of my collateral duties. I've just been operational for operational use my whole career. But look at what exactly the branch or the service has exactly going on. If there's anything that sticks out to you, obviously, if you like being on the water, you want to do something with ships, small boats, any kind of boats. You got the Coast Guard and you got the Navy. If you like Rocky Mountain terrain, things of that nature, out in the woods, camping, things of that nature, Marine Corps, Army, things like that, and then flying, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard does have aviation also. But I mean, for me specifically, it was being able to have something that's on the water and that's translatable to getting out and working on and within our state system, our waterways. And the Coast Guard does all those things, and they did them all for me. Big thing was the Coast Guard was a military branch, but also we have 10 specific missions we carry out, and we do them 365 days a year. Where we just don't train. We stand to watch 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and we respond to search and rescue. We're enforcing customs and narcotics interdiction laws, things of that nature. So we're constantly doing our jobs and our missions, and honestly, for me, it was kind of the closeness of what the Coast Guard felt like normal civilian side work. You might look at, say, like the Coast Guard has small boat stations where I've been to 2 on the Great Lakes, and then also up here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, where we have a house where people stand duty, and it's kind of like similar to a firehouse. You come on for 2 days, you're off for 2 days. You go back for 2 days, you're off for 2 days. And what's unique about the Coast Guard, and especially from the enlisted side, we're the branch of service that actually has enlisted commands. So like our small boat stations are run from all the way from E7s like myself to E9s. And that's who's in charge and has a command. and then second in commands and so forth. So for me, it was just a close proximity to being close to what is being done civilian side, and then also being able to do a required demanded job 365 days a year where we're on watch. So
And yeah, so just to add to that, definitely take a look at like the mission set, like for example, the Coast Guard being under DHS versus the other like the Air Force, Navy, Army being under Department of Defense. That gives us some different mission sets. So for us, we do have some specific law enforcement, unique law enforcement missions, and also some different humanitarian efforts as well. And the other thing I would say too is from the Coast Guard perspective, we are a lot smaller. So we are about 40,000 active duty. So to put in perspective, more people are part of the NYPD than the entire active duty force of the Coast Guard. So it is very sort of a family, there is a set of like, you could feel like family orientation. There's a lot of times you could serve with people multiple times through your career. So there's a little bit different feel there as well from the smaller side.
Let's see. The next question I have is, will you be denied joining the military if you have a felony?
It depends on what it is and if there's a path to a waiver. Some things, especially felonies, may be permanently disqualifying, so it really would have to be a case-to-case basis and what it is and what had happened and stuff.
Let's see, the next question. How difficult are the fitness tests for the different branches or an ROTC? Do most people pass them on the first try?
I think it really depends on, do you work out regularly? For the Navy, you do max set of push-ups in 2 minutes. We just did our PRT today, and I think for 17 to 19-year-old males, I think it's like in the 50 range for minimum push-ups. We do a max amount of like how long can you hold a plank for? So for males 17 to 19, it's 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And for females, I think it's 3:14. And then we do a 1.5 mile run. And for males, you need to get it done in under, I want to say 11 minutes for 17 to 19-year-olds. And then for women, I believe it's 13:30. So if you are running regularly, lifting, doing your push-ups, strengthening your core, or like you're participating in like high school sports, and it shouldn't be too difficult. If you aren't, then, I recommend going to your high school gym or a local gym or just even doing push-ups every day when you wake up. Do 100 a day, and that'll definitely get you there.
Just to piggyback on what she said, I think one of the most important things to do, look at, especially if you're coming into basic training and you're attempting the basic most requirements. If you're an active person and say you're an active, like in any kind of sports teams, outdoor clubs, it's not something to honestly be that worried about. Coast Guard also runs the 1.5 mile, push-ups and sit-ups. That's all we do. You also have the swim option, so you can actually swim instead of run if that's more advantageous to yourself. But I just want to stress that the normal standard physical fitness test is not some great high mountain that's super hard to overcome. If you're normally an active person, getting your steps in every day, it's very achievable. And if it's right there, but you're not there, especially with Coast Guard, we'll get you there. And they'll work on that in boot camp too. Like they'll if you need a little bit more help to get through it, you're just right there. You got it. We'll get you there. And then we'll make you big, we'll make you stronger and better at it. So
I have a question kind of for ROTC. I guess for JRTC, they need to travel a bit, which requires losing classes out of the schedule. And if the student wants to go to West Point or Annapolis, is it more important to be involved with JRTC or take AP and challenge or more challenging classes? I know none of you represent the academies, but if you have an opinion maybe about that, what would be better to work on?
I definitely think you should if you want to do Navy, and are interested in like math and science, I would definitely prioritize more challenging classes. As long as you have other leadership positions or other ways to demonstrate that you're involved within the community. Those are all things that the Navy looks for. It's not just prioritizing JROTC. They look at your application holistically, but demonstrating high performance in challenging classes definitely shows that you have a high aptitude. And because the Navy is so technical in a lot of the things that we do, that can definitely help you. But again, it's holistic, and I think that's a personal choice of what would you prefer to do.
I'll add on as well. So as a mission officer for Service Academy, in terms of what we look at is actually pretty similar for each service academy. I would say in terms of competitiveness, they're all about the same. So something that is really important to just think about your high school courses. So what Sarah had mentioned. So you want to ensure that you're taking some STEM courses to include a pre-calc, physics, chemistry, and then also the other part of that is for service academies. It's not necessarily just about academics in terms of what else are you doing in your community, service, leadership, and then also athletics or the fitness component as well. So really those three categories you want to be able to fill out pretty wholesomely as well. So it's you kind of have to be able to balance a lot of these things because you're at a service academy, you're going to have to also balance a lot of things. At the end of the day, we don't just want people in their room studying. They're usually also very active within at the academy as well.
I think we have time for one more question before we'll close out this room and take a break before moving to the breakout rooms. If someone could speak about the ASVAB test and how it's used in enlisting process versus applying to probably ROTC or service academies.
Yeah, so the ASVAB, it's the same test for all of the branches. So we go off of line scores. So all you need is a 31 to get into the Air Force. That's really what you need for the rest of the branches as well. But if you just get a 31, that's the threshold. You'll only qualify for maybe 2 or 3 jobs. So we always say on your overall score, aim for like the high 40s to 50s to get more opportunities. But if you're interested in more so like mechanical career fields or engineering, electrical career fields, you want to look at the mechanical portion and the electrical portion on the ASVAB. You can find the ASVAB online. They have books, they have practice tests all over the place so that you can start testing for those to get yourself prepared for those line scores, because that's what us recruiters are going off of when we're looking at what you qualify for. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless you have something to, Sergeant Dixon.
So in regards to the ASVAB, you can take it with a recruiter, but you can also take it through your school. Usually most schools will offer it twice a year, once in like the wintertime, another time in the spring. So I would get with your career counselors and ask about the ASVAB, see if you can take it through your school, because you can actually keep that score and enlist with it, or if you need to take it again, improve your score, you don't have to keep that score.
And then for service academies, we don't, you won't, it's not part of the application process. So on the officer side, you don't take the ASVAB. So it would be the same thing for service academies. It's just not something we require for the application.
Awesome. And that puts us a little bit past 6:45. And I want to thank all my panelists for taking the time to answer questions and our opening for military night. We will take this 15-minute break before we start our breakout rooms, and you can choose whichever one you'd like to join. We have one for ROTC and then one for the academies and enlisted questions. And I know we didn't get to answer all the questions, so ask them again in the next room. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.